Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Heart and Health Wellness. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Welch, and I'm so glad that you are here. If you are brand new, just a quick recap of what we're doing here. We are talking all about biopsychosocial, spiritual health and wellness, which is a big fancy way of saying that we care about your mind, your body, your spirit, and your relationships. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I specialize in medical family therapy. I've spent the last 10 years working with individuals, couples, and families to better help them achieve wellness. And so that is what I'm helping you do here on this podcast as well. The last 2 weeks, or the last 3 weeks, I should say, we've been talking about self-care and redefining self-care as something that is not just a luxury that you get to do every now and then, but it's actually something that should be a regular part of your routine that you incorporate into what you do every day. And so the last 2 weeks, we talked about self-care as it relates specifically to your physical health or biological domain. And then last week, we talked about the psychological domain. And so today, you may have guessed it, we're going to talk about the social domain and how your relationships are an important part of self-care and how you can engage in relational or social self-care. So that's what we're doing today. I'm glad that you're here. It's going to be a good conversation. And I think I'm going to include a few more personal stories than maybe what I would normally do. So I hope you enjoy those too. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. So first of all, let's talk about what is social wellness. What does that even look like? Well, it has to do with your relationships. So you can think about the relationships that are probably really close and in your face, like your marriage, the relationship you have with your parents or with your children or siblings, your best friends. Are you getting along with people? Do you argue and fight? Do you have good communication? Are those relationships healthy? So that is one piece of it. But it's also about, do you have a sense of belonging or community? Is there a larger group that you spend time with? Do you feel like you have good support systems that you can go to when you're struggling? And who is involved in those support systems? And how are you at communication? Not only with communicating about your own needs and wants and desires and expressing that to other people, but also being able to ask others what they want and what's important to them and how they like to receive communication. Because it's not just about what we want, but what the other people in our lives that are important to us, what they want as well. So being able to balance all of that, make sure that all of that's being attended to properly so that you can have healthy relationships that last and that are meaningful and that feel like you have a place of belonging and support. I do want to point out that I think this is common knowledge, but maybe not. So don't take that insulting if it doesn't feel like not common knowledge once I say it. But I think it's much more important to focus on the quality of relationships that you have rather than the number of relationships that you have. And I'll take you back. So young Melissa, or even Melissa today, but young Melissa, very chatty, very important to me to have lots of friends and to be friendly with all of the people that I encounter and come across, which is not a bad thing. But sometimes when individuals like me feel the importance of talking to everybody, we neglect having really good, deep, meaningful relationships with a few. And I do believe that I've gotten better at this over the years and realized who it is in my life that is going to stand the test of time, and we're going to stay connected no matter what state I'm in or city I'm living in. And we have a way of continuing those relationships because they're important to us. But maybe back in the day, I thought it was more about how many friends you have and not making sure that the relationships that you do have are good quality, deep relationships. So I just want to point that out. I think that's something that we learn over time. And if it's not common knowledge, it's at least something that I have learned over time. It's not about the number of friends that you have, but the depth and the safety that you feel within those relationships and feeling like you have that mutual support that you can each go to each other when you need something. I'll also make a note that it's okay for relationships to look different based on the setting, right? So you're really close, my really close girlfriends who I'm thinking of, I can call them and when I've got something going on and we could literally talk for over an hour. I've got one girlfriend, every time we catch up, it might be once or twice a year, but we're on that phone for like 4 hours when we talk. And I love her so much. And that's just the nature of where we're at in our life and the stage of life and how busy we are. And that's what we can do. And so we make it worthwhile when we do catch up. But then you might have relationships at work where you're only sharing limited information with them, right? Because you don't want everybody at work to know all your stuff. And that's okay. I don't think the key here is to have lots of really deep relationships with everybody. It's to know who in your life you feel like you can trust and feel safe with, making sure that you're attending to those relationships, taking good care of them, and then also being able to have good, healthy relationships with good communication and fun with other people in your life as well. I want to point out, again, I think this is probably obvious, but maybe it's not, and that's why you're listening. Social health affects the other domains of your health, right? If you have good relationships with people, you're going to have a sense of belonging. And that can help you in that spiritual domain of feeling like you have a higher sense of purpose. I know for me personally, when I became a mom almost 2 years ago, I feel like my whole life changed. Suddenly my purpose in life was completely different. And I thought I had really good purpose before, but now as a mom, it's totally different. So that part of my life totally affected by my social life. Also, your physical well-being. If you're going out with friends who are partying all the time and want to drink and smoke and stay up late, you're not going to be feeling very well physically. That's going to affect your overall well-being. So the social part of your life can affect things in a positive way and a negative way. And psychologically as well. If you have relationships where people are building you up and you feel supported and encouraged, you're going to feel pretty good about yourself, right? It's hard to be depressed and anxious when you have these really wonderful people in your life. You're spending good quality time with them. But when you feel disconnected or those relationships are struggling, it's easy to ask yourself, why? Is there something wrong with me? Am I missing something where people don't like me or aren't getting along with me or that they find something bad about who I am or how I am? And it can cause you to feel doubt and experience this sense of disconnect and being lost and not having purpose. So physical health, psychological health, and spiritual health all connected to that social piece. And that's why, going to get off on a tangent here. Sorry, I'm going to try and bring it back. That is why it's so important to think about all four. And a lot of times when people talk about wellness, they talk about your physical health and what you're eating, or your mental health and how you're thinking, or what you're believing, the thoughts in your head. But we're missing this piece about relationships. Maybe it's because I'm a family therapist or I'm trained as a medical family therapist in this BPSS framework, but I cannot help but look at how relationships are affecting everything else in our life. So I hope that's becoming more and more obvious to you as well. If it wasn't before you were listening to this podcast, hopefully it is now. Okay, real quick, I want to let you know about Audible. Audible is the way that you can listen to audiobooks from Amazon. And I absolutely love using Audible. I personally have a subscription myself, so I get a credit every single month for a new book. I listen to books while I am driving because I don't have time to just sit and read a book. So I get to listen to books while I'm on the go. If you are not already a member of Audible, you definitely want to check it out. I mentioned the book Compassionomics. I think another book that I've mentioned before is The Anxious Generation. Both are terrific. Both I've listened to on Audible and I think they're fantastic. So I'm going to leave a link for each of those books down below that you can find in hard copy on Amazon if you want to, but also if you want to listen to them in audio version, I'm going to leave a link where you can get signed up for Audible as well. Okay, to bring it back to the show for today, I'm going to go over 5 different reflection prompts that you can use to journal or just think about in the shower, whatever works for you, to ask yourself how you're doing with your relationships and your social wellness. So for social self-care, I want you to ask yourself, number 1, Who do I feel most emotionally safe with? Now, for some people, that might be a new term. It's growing popularity to talk about how we feel safe around others in an emotional way, not just a physical safety sense. But ask yourself, who do I feel safe with? Who do I feel like I can be myself totally and completely, not holding anything back, and they're going to accept me for who I am, and not just accept me, but love me for who I am? That is emotional safety. Just feeling like you can be totally you and they are going to love it and eat it up. Who is that person for you? Or if there's more than one, who are those people in your life? Number 2, have I made space for meaningful connection this season of life? So whether that's this calendar year that you're looking at, or this job that you are in, if you just started a new job, or maybe you moved into a new neighborhood, or you're at school doing grad school or college or high school, I don't know, whatever stage of life you're in. How are you, or have you made connection possible? How have you made meaningful connection possible in this phase of life that you are in right now? Have you made space for it? Okay. Question number 3. Are there relationships that need boundaries or repair? Now, this one is tough. It's going to get into the more of like, oh, I feel like I'm not doing everything great. And that's okay. You're normal. Most of us have some kind of relationship, at least one, if not more, that needs some repair. Because we're human and humans are imperfect, and imperfect beings are going to hurt the feelings of other people. They're going to say things incorrectly. They're going to focus on themselves and not others. We are human. Join the club. It's okay. But are there relationships that need some repair? Or maybe you can implement some boundaries so that you can still have that relationship, but it's not as intense or strained, and it's not hurting you in other areas of your wellness and well-being. Okay, so are there relationships that need boundaries or repair? Question number 4, how do I show up in my relationships in general? So, am I present? Am I distracted? Am I resentful? Am I giving too much? Basically, just asking yourself, what do I look like in my relationships? Am I there, but mentally I'm not there? I'm thinking about other things all the time. Maybe you're the one who sits on the couch with the family, but you're on your phone. What is it that is preventing you from being present and showing up authentically and genuinely in your relationships? How are you showing up? Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually as well. How are you showing up in your relationships? Maybe it's you're just giving way too much. Maybe you're showing up and just throwing everything you can into that relationship and saying, I'm going to pour myself into this, but the other person's not giving you anything back. And it's like, this really isn't healthy if you're pouring yourself into it so much. Now, with a lot of relationships, especially marriage, there's going to be some give and take. And I do not believe that it's ever going to be 50-50, definitely not 50-50 all the time. Relationships are give and take. There's an ebb and flow, and that's normal and natural and healthy. But if it's one-sided all the time, that's definitely not healthy. So we don't want that. Maybe that's an area with the last question you need to implement some boundaries. Okay. How do I show up in my relationships? Okay, and question number 5, have I allowed myself to receive help or support? This one is so tough for me personally. You can ask the people that I'm closest to in my life. They know it. I like to deal with things on my own. I like to be strong. I like to be confident. I like to feel autonomous. I like to feel independent, like I've got it taken care of. Asking for help, one of the hardest things that I ever do. Some people are really good at this, and I need to talk to more of those people to figure out what their tricks are so I can implement it. Now, I'm not saying I never ask for help. I definitely do, and there are definitely seasons where I have to ask for more help than others. And now that I have a little one, I'm definitely learning that sometimes I need to ask for help to have somebody help take care of him, kind of thing. Or if it's at work and I need flexibility with my job or whatever it might be, I have to ask for help. So this is something that I feel like I'm getting better at in this season of life, or maybe just with age and more wisdom and experience. I don't know. But this one is really hard for me. So if it's hard for you too, just know you are not alone. You are in good company. Have I allowed myself to receive help and support? And I do like the way that this question is worded, because it's not, is that help or support available to you? It's out there, but you have to find it, be willing to find it, and be willing to ask for it. It's not going to just land in your lap. Not usually. Okay. Moving on from that, let's talk about some of the barriers that get in the way for really having good social wellness. We can also think about this as like social burnout. So, what's getting in the way and what's leading us to feel burned out socially? First of all, let's talk about what makes social self-care difficult. Well, there's lots of things. Busy schedules. We live in a society that is go, go, go all the time. And it's not bad to be doing a lot, but we want to be present when we're doing those things. So if you're taking kids to gymnastics, instead of being on your phone scrolling on Instagram, maybe talk to the other parents that are there, engage in relationship that way, or watch your kid while they're practicing, whatever it might be, allowing yourself to be present when it's go, go, go. But maybe that's what's getting in the way of just being busy, being distracted, having social anxiety. That's a really common thing. I am not one of those people. I am definitely an extrovert. I love talking to people. I love talking to new people. It's, the joke that you never meet a stranger, yet that's me. I'm happy to talk to anybody and everybody. I don't have this social anxiety. Usually, every now and then I'll be in a situation where I'm like, usually it's at like no, that's not even true. I just don't really struggle with that much. So it's hard for me to fully relate to that. But I know that it is common. And I know that there's oftentimes these like thoughts or beliefs that we have about ourselves and how other people perceive us that get in the way of being able to just fully be ourselves and be present. And I know that's tricky. Social anxiety is definitely common. Maybe that's one of the things that's getting in the way. Having caregiver roles, or really just any responsibility, whether it's work or caregiving or, even like being a dog owner, there's a lot of things that you have responsibilities in your life that you have to take care of that make it difficult to go have fun and do things with friends. And that's okay. Maybe it's past hurts, things that have happened in the relationship before where you're like, I don't know that I can be in this relationship anymore. Or maybe you ended that one, that was not an option anymore, but you're like, that really hurts so bad that it's now affecting my other relationships. And if that's the case, I think it's really important to do some journaling and reflection about that, or get some therapy about that to help heal those relationship wounds. I do want to point out what we have found over and over again through the literature, but also in my experience as a therapist, is that when you experience relational hurt, it is healed through healthy relationships. I'll say that again. When you experience relational hurt, it is healed through healthy relationship. So just because that relationship was bad or caused you to experience hurt or trauma in some way doesn't mean every other relationship is going to be like that. And when we experience a good, solid, healthy relationship, it heals those wounds that we've had. So a lot of times when people experience relationship hurt or relational hurt, they distance themselves and they push them away from other people because they're afraid of it getting repeated and it happening to them again. But what they actually need is to have a better, healthier, more fulfilling relationship with someone else who can show them what love can look like, what marriage can look like, what a parent-child relationship can look like. So those hurts can be healed. And one of the best ways to heal them is through relationship. So even if that's relationship with a therapist, having someone who cares about you and connects with you and listens to you and hears you and understands you and sees you for who you are, that can be healing. It can also be through a new romantic relationship. It can be, your relationship with your mom was terrible, but your relationship with your children is wonderful. And you can see what that mother-child relationship can and should look like. So relationships heal. And they are so, so important. Okay, I went off on a tangent a little bit there, but I think it's important. Moving away. not having physical proximity to friends. This is something that I've definitely experienced. So, for those of you who don't know, I grew up in the Austin area, Central Texas, northwest of Austin, in a little town called Cedar Park. That's not so little anymore, but it was back then. And never really imagined myself moving away from Texas or the Central Texas area. I did my undergrad at Texas A&M, which was in College Station, Texas, and that was 2 hours away. And I remember when I moved to college, 2 hours felt like a long ways away from home. And I think the intention was I would always stay in that general area. But then I got the itch to go get a PhD, and lo and behold, there were two programs that did medical family therapy PhDs. And one was like the mothership, that's East Carolina University. And I was like, I want to go there. That's where I want to study. That's what I want to do. So I was convinced we're going to do that. I called my husband, who was just my boyfriend at the time, and I said, I really think I want to do this. Are you cool with us moving to North Carolina? He was like, I guess. And so then in the next year, we got engaged and we got married, and I got into the program, and then we moved to Eastern North Carolina, in Greenville, North Carolina. Very, very far away from home. Not a day's drive. Absolutely a flight or a 2-day, maybe a 3-day drive. Very far away. That wasn't part of the plan, but it was going to be temporary, right? So then I was there for 3 years. And then when I was looking for a job after I finished my doctorate, I thought, well, we're going to go back to Texas, right? Nope. Found the perfect job in Destin, Florida, the beautiful Emerald Coast. And we're so happy here. It's gorgeous. We love to fish. We love the water. We love the beach. My job is fantastic. All of it is so good, but it's still a day or two's drive back home. And that was just never the plan. And so my friendships, not only my family, but my friendships that I have back home in Texas are still really important to me. And I'm really thankful for those friends, you know who you are, who continue to engage with me and be patient with me when I'm so busy and it's hard to stay connected. But when we do connect, it is still so wonderful and meaningful. And so if you are in a similar boat where you've maybe found yourself moving far away from home and relationships for a job or for school, or just because you wanted something different and you couldn't stand the heat or the cold or whatever it was, if you moved away, it's really hard to make new friends as an adult. And I totally see that and I get that. And so that can be definitely a big barrier to having good social wellness. So I wanted to touch on that one as well. I also want to normalize that this thing called friendship fatigue, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term, it's relatively new to me, is also very common. And this is when we just feel totally overwhelmed by everything we have to do, including taking care of our relationships. So sometimes, the joke, I see the memes all the time. People will be like, the friend calls to cancel the coffee date and you're like, darn, because you just want to stay on the couch. And it's so true. A lot of times we like to just stay in because we feel so overwhelmed by how much we're doing. I think the trick here is finding ways to incorporate your friends and relationships into the things you're already doing. So I use that example of like gymnastics practice, or maybe it's going to church on Sundays and having a small group that you're engaging with, but allowing the relationships that you're really investing in and pouring in being a normal part of your routine. And again, when we think about self-care as something that we're doing all the time, not something that's a special luxury, coffee with the girls is really nice, date night is really nice, but let's make sure that we're investing in our relationships on a regular basis as part of our routine and not something that's just unique and special. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So it is normal to feel overwhelmed and fatigued by all of the requirements, but let's also recognize that it is normal to have very, how do I want to phrase this? Basic friendships that are like texting when you can and then not getting to text back for hours and then responding the next day or the next week. And that's okay. I'm in a busy season of life. I've got a little one who needs my attention all the time. There's no independence on his part yet. He fully relies on me, right? So I'm either busy at work or I'm busy at home with him or I'm trying to get things done. Like, it is hard to connect with friends. And my friends that really know me get that. And they understand that. And some of them are in the same boat too. I use the example of the girlfriend where we talk maybe once or twice a year and for hours at a time. She's in the exact same boat. We had babies at very close times. And so it is what it is, and we make the most of it. And I would encourage you to try to do the same with your relationships. Even if it doesn't look the way that in your mind it's supposed to, or somehow you've come up with this definition of what friendship is supposed to look like or marriage is supposed to look like, it's okay to redefine that so that it fits your needs and the other person's needs. So you'll have a relationship that is meaningful and beneficial to both of you and not something that's living up to these, social media norms or standards or whatever the standards came from. It doesn't matter what was supposed to be. Let's do what works for both of you and what's helpful to you. And another barrier or thing that's leading to that burnout is just experiencing drain from doing things for others. Now, I want to take a note. I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast before. Sometimes we feel burnout and we blame it on compassion fatigue. However, before compassion comes empathy. And so empathy is when we experience what another person is feeling and we take that on or we feel what they're experiencing. You get what I'm saying, right? We get fatigued by that because it is exhausting to carry the weight of this world. And this is why therapists get burned out so often, right? Is because they are taking on the emotions and the experiences of their clients that they're working with every day. It's hard and it's heavy. Doctors too. I work with family medicine physicians. They are listening to people with big problems, big health concerns all the time. And it is exhausting to do that work, to take that on. The cure to empathy fatigue is compassion. Compassion does something about the empathy. It takes that empathy and puts it into action. So we're not actually experiencing compassion fatigue causing burnout. We're experiencing empathy fatigue, and the compassion piece is the cure for that. So if you are feeling drained because you're taking on everything for your family members and your friends and it's just weighing on you, know that the way to counter that is by doing something for them, by helping or doing something for you or for your family or helping. But taking that empathy and putting it into action is how we take care of that. Look up the author's name real quick. There's a book called Compassionomics, and if you're in healthcare at all, you absolutely need to read this book. The authors are Stephen Trzak, probably mispronounced that, and Stephen Trzak and Anthony Mozzarelli. So those are the two authors of Compassionomics, but Stephen or Dr. Trzak is the one who I've heard talk about his research with this compassion fatigue and empathy fatigue and redefining it. And so if you want to learn more about that, definitely look up his work on that. Really good. And he's got some good long YouTube videos out there that you can watch about it. Really good stuff. Anyways, that relates to relationships as well. If we're feeling totally drained, I would encourage you to figure out one small act that's going to help you feel refueled instead of drained. And I would encourage you to test out some of that compassion, doing things for others as a way to refuel your energy. Okay, let's take a quick break. I want to remind you of We Are Amma. I know I talk about them all the time, but this is the group. It's a women-owned small business who makes these wonderful gifts for moms, including the cocoon, which is the most beautiful and comfortable nursing cover. I absolutely loved mine. I have it in a creamy oatmeal color. It's the big size one too, so it's nice and comfy. Use it as a blanket still. You can use it as a scarf or a cover for the baby stroller or carrier. Anyways, it's fantastic. I still have lots of women in my life who are having babies, and so this is a great gift to give to them. If you have had a baby recently, get one for yourself. They're fabulous. But also if you're going to a baby shower, you want to give a gift, check out the new Mama Bundle. It includes a cocoon and then a bunch of other goodies that are great for new moms who've just given birth and all the things. So check those out. If you use the code Melissa, Melissa, you will save 15% off of your entire order. So it's a really good deal. I encourage you to check them out, called We Are Amma, and I'll leave their link down in the show notes. Alrighty, now let's talk about some of the things that you can do to be more intentional about cultivating relationships and having good social health. Maybe some of those barriers relate to you. Maybe it's other things that you're struggling with, whatever it might be. These are some tips for making sure that you're being intentional and working toward improving this domain of your wellness. So some of the examples of things that you could do monthly check-ins with your friends. I know I have one friend in particular who is also a therapist. And so we know each other. Originally, it was a professional relationship that turned into a friendship. And so we used to interact on a regular basis, checking in like how we're doing with clients and kind of like a supervision type relationship where we talk about cases and things like that. But now it's a friendship. But we're both so busy with our schedules that it's really hard to spontaneously find time for each other. So every time we talk, we schedule a time for the next month to catch up, and then we keep it on the schedule. And I'll admit, I'm not good at keeping up with that. She's much better than I am. So she'll usually text me and be like, hey, are we still talking today at 4? And I'll say, oh, I totally forgot. Let's do it at this time instead. Or yes, that still works. And then we'll talk on the phone. And it's really nice when we do that. But sometimes you need to be very focused on the logistics to make it happen and recognize that it's okay if it's not spontaneous. So schedule those check-ins, whether they're weekly or monthly. And also a quick note, if you're using my daily, weekly, or monthly check-in sheets for yourself on how you're doing, this might be a good way to write it in on there to see how you're doing. Next option would be joining or stepping away from a certain group chat or social spaces. So if you need to get plugged in, maybe joining a small group through your church or through the community, or I know I've done volunteer work like at soup kitchens and things like that before. That can be a nice way to meet people. If you're an animal person, volunteering at the animal shelter, that can be a great way to meet other people. It's hard making friends as an adult, but you're not going to meet them. Here's some tough love. You're not going to meet them by being on your phone on your couch. Sorry. Not going to happen. Maybe though, there are groups online that you can meet. I know personally, I've joined several groups on Facebook that are related to motherhood or local groups of other moms in the area or whatever. There are ways to join groups on Facebook to get connected. So if you want to do it virtually, that's totally fine. I have a group of moms that we have a group chat, and I'm sure they figured it out by now if I haven't said it explicitly. I'm just not going to be able to chat in there every single day. But when I do, I'm going to try and catch up and I'm going to chime in a little bit. And it's so nice. And we support each other. We love on each other. We encourage each other when we're struggling. It's a really good group chat to be in. So those are all positive reasons to get plugged in. However, I also recognize sometimes those things are too overwhelming. It feels draining. The people in there may be negative or hostile or rude, and it's just not a good space to be in. And if that's the case, get your booty out of there. You don't need to be spending time somewhere that's not fueling you. If it's not, I'm not talking like cancel culture, like get rid of them. I'm just saying don't be spending your time, which is such a limited, valuable resource, in a space that is not adding to your life in some kind of positive way. Now, if there's one lady who every now and then she comes in and it's not great, maybe continue going to the group. But if that's the leader of the group or there's multiple people in the group who aren't nice, get out of there. You don't need that. There's something better for you out there. Okay. So either get plugged in or remove yourself and step away from things that are not helpful to you. Also, we can practice saying no and not feel guilty about it. I think I talked about this last week. No can be a complete sentence. If someone asks you, hey, do you want to go do this? You can just say, no, and leave it at that. That's really hard for me. I feel very uncomfortable doing that. I like to give some kind of reason, but you don't have to. It is okay to just say, no, thank you. You have my permission to just say no. Okay? Don't feel guilty about that. If you have too much on your plate and you can't do it, you're probably not going to be very pleasant when you get there anyways. So it's probably better for you to say no in the first place. It's okay to say no. You don't have to feel guilty about it. All right. And last one, make sure that you find that belonging in ways that are going to be aligned with your values. So I talked about some of the different options for joining groups, whether it's virtually or in person. But when you're doing that, for me, it wouldn't be very helpful to go join like a hockey club. That means nothing to me, right? Does not fulfill my values, not aligned with where I'm going in life. It's just not a good use of my time. Oh, we got a thumbs up. If you're watching, you get a thumbs up. But maybe something like mom related or faith related would be aligned with my values. So just make sure that you're very clear on what your values are and that anything that you are adding to your plate or joining is in some way aligned with those values of making you feel good about how you're spending your time. We want to have that sense of purpose and belonging and feel good about what we're doing. And that means that we need to sign up for things that are aligned with our values in the first place. Otherwise, you're going to be in there and frustrated and trying to figure out how to get out. Okay, so just make sure that from the get-go, you're asking yourself, is this aligned with what my overall values and ideas of where I'm headed in life? Are they aligned? Okay, and that is all I have for y'all today. I want to encourage you before you sign off, think of one relationship that you want to either invest in or protect or reevaluate, something that needs your attention. Maybe you've been neglecting it because you've been so busy, or you've been avoiding it because it makes you feel uncomfortable. Is there a relationship that needs some work, or you can invest in it more because you really love it and it's important to you? What is it? I know there's a relationship that's popping up in your mind. What is that relationship? And then identify one step that you can take this week to get you in the right direction. Now, I do want to say real quick, if that relationship that is coming to mind is one that is not a healthy relationship, not because of what you're doing, but what the other person is doing. We can never control what another person does. So even if you want to work on that relationship, if they're not cooperative for whatever reason, it is okay to let that sit. That doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. You're not neglecting it, not taking care of it. It's just that relationships are tricky because there's two people involved. You have control of your part, and somebody else, you don't have control of that part. And now we have balloons. It's a very festive day on the video. I hope you're watching. And if you're just listening, that's okay. But know that you can watch on YouTube or Spotify if you ever want to. Anyways, just know that that is okay. But I want you to think of a relationship that needs some work and identify one or two things that you can do this week to get you headed in a better direction with that relationship. Also, next week, we're going to be talking about self-care in that spiritual domain. So if you want to learn more about how to have that sense of belonging or a higher sense of purpose and how you can take care of yourself in that way, make sure you tune in for that episode. That will be good. And that is all I have. Let me read this to you real quick. Relationships are part of what makes life feel rich and meaningful, but only when they're healthy. Take a breath, check in with yourself, and move forward in a way that's going to allow you to have healthier relationships. And remember, it's okay when the relationships are struggling. You are human. That other person is human. It is part of the human experience to have challenges in relationships, but they make us feel whole and like we have a rich life and like we have meaning in life when they're in a good, healthy place. So if there's something that you can do to make it a little bit healthier, move it in that right direction, I want you to do that. All right. Until next time, y'all, take care of yourself and be well.